Grand Theft Auto V is an open-world, action-adventure video game developed by Rockstar North and published by Rockstar Games. It was released on the 17th of September 2013 for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, on the 18th of November 2014 for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, and on the 14th of April 2015 for Microsoft Windows. The game is the first main entry in the Grand Theft Auto series since 2008's Grand Theft Auto 4, set within the fictional state of San Andreas based on Southern California. The single-player story follows three criminals and their efforts to commit heists while under pressure from a government agency. The open-world design lets players freely roam San Andreas's open countryside and fictional city of Los Santos based on Los Angeles. The game is played from either a third-person or first-person view, and its world is navigated on foot or by vehicle. Players control the three lead protagonists throughout the single-player mode, switching between them both during and outside of missions. The story is centered on the heist sequences, and many of the missions involve shooting and driving gameplay. Players who commit crimes may incite a response from law enforcement agencies, measured by a wanted system that governs the aggression of their response. Grand Theft Auto Online, the online multiplayer mode, lets up to 30 players explore the open world and engage in cooperative or competitive game matches. Development began soon after Grand Theft Auto 4's release and was shared between many of Rockstar's studios worldwide. The development team drew influence from many of their previous projects such as Red Dead Redemption and Max Payne 3, and designed the game around three lead protagonists to innovate on the core structure of its predecessors. Creating the open world constituted much of the development work, and several team members conducted field research around California to capture footage for the design team. The game's soundtrack features an original score composed by a team of producers who collaborated over several years. A widely anticipated game, Grand Theft Auto V broke industry sales records and became the fastest-selling entertainment product in history, earning US $800 million in its first day and US $1 billion in its first 3 days. It received widespread critical acclaim, with praise directed at its multiple protagonist design, open-world presentation and gameplay. The game caused controversies related to its depiction of women and a mission featuring torture during a hostage interrogation. Considered one of the most significant titles of the seventh generation of console gaming, it won year-end accolades, including Game of the Year awards from several gaming publications. It has shipped over 54 million copies and is one of the best-selling video games of all time. Gameplay. Grand Theft Auto V is an action-adventure game played from either a first-person or third-person view. Players complete missions, linear scenarios with set objectives, to progress through the story. Outside of missions, players can freely roam the open world, composed of the San Andreas open countryside area and the fictional city of Los Santos. Grand Theft Auto V's world is much larger in area than earlier entries in the series. The world may be fully explored from the beginning of the game without restrictions, although story progress unlocks more gameplay content. Players use melee attacks, firearms and explosives to fight enemies, and may run, jump, swim or use vehicles to navigate the world. To accommodate the map's size, the game introduces vehicle types absent in its predecessor Grand Theft Auto 4, such as fixed-wing aircraft. In combat, auto-aim and a cover system can be used as assistance against enemies. Should players take damage, their health meter will gradually regenerate to its halfway point. Players respawn at hospitals when their health depletes. If players commit crimes while playing, law enforcement agencies may respond as indicated by wanted meter in the head-up display. On the meter, the displayed stars indicate the current wanted level. Law enforcement officers will search for players who leave the wanted vicinity. The meter enters a cooldown mode and eventually recedes when players are hidden from the officer's line of sight. The single-player mode lets players control 3 characters: Michael DeSanta, Trevor Phillips and Franklin Clinton, criminals whose stories interconnect as they complete missions. Some missions are completed with only one character and others feature 2 or 3. Throughout single-player, players may switch between the protagonists at will by means of a directional compass on the HUD. The game may switch between characters automatically in single-player missions to complete certain objectives. A character's compass avatar will flash red if he is in danger and needs help, and flash white if he has a strategic advantage. Though players complete missions as any of the 3 protagonists, the more difficult heist missions require aid from AI-controlled accomplices with unique skill sets, such as computer hacking or driving. If an accomplice survives a successful heist, they take a cut from the cash reward and may be available for later missions with improvements to their unique skills. The game encourages differentiation in heist mission strategies. For example, in a hold-up mission, players may either stealthily subdue civilians with an incapacitating agent or conspicuously storm the venue with guns drawn. Each character has a set of 8 skills that represent their ability in certain areas such as shooting and driving. Though players improve characters' skills as they play, each character has a skill with expertise by default. The 8th special skill determines the effectiveness in performing an ability that is unique to each respective character. Michael enters bullet time in combat, Franklin slows down time while driving, and Trevor deals twice as much damage to enemies while taking half as much in combat. A meter on each character's HUD depletes when an ability is being used and regenerates when players perform skillful actions. While free-roaming the game world, players may engage in context-specific activities such as scuba diving underwater or base jumping via parachute. Each character has a smartphone for contacting friends, starting activities and accessing an in-game internet. The internet lets players trade in stocks via a stock market. Players may purchase properties such as homes and businesses, upgrade the weapons and vehicles in each character's arsenal, and customize their appearance by purchasing outfits, haircuts, tattoos and jewelry. Plot: 9 years after a botched robbery in Ludendorff, North Yankton, former bank robber Michael Townley is living under witness protection with his family in Los Santos, San Andreas, under the alias Michael DeSanta. He meets and befriends gangbanger Franklin Clinton when the latter attempts to fraudulently repossess his son's car on behalf of a corrupt Armenian car salesman. When Michael discovers his wife, Amanda, has been sleeping with her tennis coach, he chases the coach to a mansion and destroys it out of anger. The mansion's owner turns out to be the girlfriend of Mexican drug lord Martin Madrazo, who demands compensation under the threat of further violence. Michael goes back into a life of crime to obtain the money and enlists Franklin as an accomplice. Together, they perform a jewelry shop heist to help pay the debt. Michael's sole surviving partner in the Ludendorff robbery, Trevor Phillips, hears of the jewelry heist and realizes that it was Michael's handiwork. The two reunite after Trevor tracks Michael down in Los Santos. The personal lives of the protagonists begin to spiral out of control. Michael's family leaves him, and his attempts to make something of himself bring him into conflict with Devin Weston, a self-made billionaire venture capitalist and corporate raider who develops a grudge against him. Weston vows revenge after his lawyer dies in an accident that Michael is blamed for. Franklin rescues his friend Lamar Davis from gangster and former friend Harold Stretch Joseph, who repeatedly attempts to kill Lamar to prove himself to his brethren. Trevor's reckless efforts to consolidate his control over various black markets in Blaine County see him waging war against the San Andreas chapter of the Lost Outlaw Motorcycle Club, a number of Latin American street gangs, rival meth dealers, government-sponsored mercenaries and triad kingpin Wei Cheng. Federal Investigation Bureau government agents Dave Norton and Steve Haynes contact Michael and demand that he perform a series of operations with Franklin and Trevor to undermine a rival agency, the International Affairs Agency. Under Haynes' direction, they attack an armored convoy carrying funds intended for the IAA and raid a bank containing the payroll for all corrupt police and public officials in Los Santos. As Haynes comes under increasing scrutiny for his methods, he forces Franklin and Michael to infiltrate the FIB headquarters and erase any evidence being used against him from their servers. Michael takes the opportunity to wipe any data on his own activities, destroying Haynes' leverage over him. The trio start planning their most daring feat ever, raiding the Union Depository's gold bullion reserve. Michael makes amends with his family and they will start living together again after returning to Los Santos. Trevor discovers that a former Ludendorff heist accomplice, Brad Snyder, was not in prison as he was led to believe, but killed during the heist and buried in the grave marked for Michael. Trevor's feelings of betrayal cause friction within the group and threaten to undermine their Union Depository plans. When Michael and Norton, both of whom are betrayed by Haynes, are caught in a Mexican standoff between the FIB, IAA and private security firm Merryweather, Trevor aids in their escape, holding that only he has the right to kill Michael. Despite not forgiving Michael, Trevor still wants to perform the Union Depository heist. The duo agree to part ways afterwards. Haynes and Norton contend that Trevor is a liability, and Weston wants retribution for Michael's betrayal. Franklin has three choices: kill Michael, kill Trevor, or kill neither and face their enemies together. Should Franklin kill either Michael or Trevor, he ceases contact with the survivor and returns to his old life. Should he kill neither, the trio withstand an onslaught from the FIB and Merryweather before going on to kill Haynes, Stretch, Cheng and Weston. Michael and Trevor reconcile, and the three cease working together but remain friends. Development. Rockstar North began to develop Grand Theft Auto V in 2009, following the release of Grand Theft Auto 4. Development was conducted by a team of more than 1,000 people, including Rockstar North's core team and staff from parent company Rockstar Games.It studios around the world. The game runs on the proprietary Rockstar Advanced Game Engine, which was overhauled for the game to improve its draw-distance rendering capabilities. The Euphoria and Bullet software handle additional animation and rendering tasks. Having become familiar with the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 hardware over time, Rockstar found they were able to push the graphical capabilities of the consoles further than in previous games. Analyst estimations place the game's combined development and marketing budget at more than £170 million, which would make it the most expensive game ever made at that time. The open world's design and in-game render constituted much of the game's early work. The open world was modeled on Southern California and Los Angeles. Key members of the Game World production team took field research trips throughout the region and documented their research with photo and video footage. Google Maps projections of Los Angeles were used by the team to help design the road networks of Los Santos. To reflect and reproduce the demographic spread of Los Angeles, the developers also studied census data and watched documentaries about the city. The team considered creating the open world the most technically demanding aspect of the game's production. A fundamental design goal from the outset was to innovate on the core structure of Grand Theft Auto games by giving players control of three lead protagonists instead of one. The idea was first raised during Grand Theft Auto San Andreas' development, but contemporaneous hardware restrictions made it unfeasible. Having developed two Grand Theft Auto 4 episodic expansion packs featuring new protagonists in 2009, the team wanted to base Grand Theft Auto 5 around three simultaneously controlled protagonists. The team viewed Grand Theft Auto 5 as a spiritual successor to many of their previous games, and designed it to improve upon their gameplay mechanics. They sought to improve the action gameplay by refining the shooting mechanics and cover system, and reworked the driving mechanics to correct Grand Theft Auto 4's difficult vehicle controls. After an audition process, Ned Luke, Sean Fontano and Stephen Ogg were selected to portray Michael, Franklin and Trevor, respectively. Their performances were mostly recorded using motion capture technology, but dialogue for scenes with characters seated in vehicles was recorded in studios instead. Grand Theft Auto 5 is the first entry in the series to feature an original score, which was composed by a team of producers collaborating with each other over a number of years. Licensed music provided by an in-game radio is also used. The team licensed more than 241 tracks shared between 15 radio stations, with an additional 2 stations providing talk radio. Some of the tracks were written specifically for the game, such as rapper and producer Flying Lotus's original work, composed for the Fly Low FM radio station he hosts. Grand Theft Auto 5 was first announced by Rockstar Games on the 25th of October 2011. They released its debut trailer 1 week later, with an official press release acknowledging the game's setting. Journalists noted that the announcement ignited widespread anticipation within the gaming industry, which they owed to the cultural significance of the series. The game missed its original projected Q2 2013 release date, pushed back to the 17th of September to allow for further polishing. To spur pre-order game sales, Rockstar collaborated with several retail outlets to make a special edition with extra in-game features. Rockstar also ran a viral marketing strategy with their website for a fictional religious cult, the Epsilon program, that offered users the chance to feature in the game as members of the cult. At E3 2014, a re-release of the game was announced for Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. This enhanced versions of the game features an increased draw distance, finer texture details, denser traffic, upgraded weather effects, and new wildlife and vegetation. It includes a new on-foot first-person view option, which required the development team to overhaul the animation system to accommodate first-person gameplay. The PlayStation 4 and Xbox One versions were released on the 18th of November 2014. The PC version, initially scheduled for simultaneous release with the console versions, was delayed until the 14th of April 2015. According to Rockstar, the game required extra development time for polish. The PC version is capable of 60 frames per second gameplay at 4K resolution, and the Rockstar editor lets players capture and edit gameplay videos.